If we jeopardize that, it's not just our economies that are in trouble. Our lives are in trouble.
To have any chance of keeping below 1.5 degrees of global warming, we need to value the services that healthy forests can provide. Services such as absorbing vast amounts of carbon from the atmosphere, cleaning the air we breathe, and providing fresh water, inspiring immense spiritual and cultural value, as well as underpinning healthy food systems and generating new income opportunities.
Acai berry brings $1.5 billion to the Amazon economy a year. This is more than timber. So is it possible that there is no economic value out of this tremendous biodiversity?
Our challenge now must be to halt deforestation and begin restoring forests around the world. And we must do this within the decade, or risk the collapse of forests worldwide. It is a huge undertaking, and every country will need its own tailored approach. Some solutions are already underway.
We've realized that to have a healthy economy and a healthy society, we need healthy ecosystems. The payment for environmental services financially rewards landowners, including indigenous communities, for protecting and restoring forests.
Now we need to accelerate action on a global scale. We can ensure global commodities are traded sustainably, end investments that fund the destruction of forests, and instead support solutions that harness the resilience of nature. We can empower indigenous people who've lived in harmony with the natural world for millennia to be forest guardians.
The 400 million indigenous peoples around the world, we all know how we can to better manage our ecosystem. Those knowledges we developed for centuries. So these need to be recognized and valued.
All the countries, businesses and communities represented here today have the opportunity to change history by preventing further deforestation and restoring the natural world. In doing so, you could leave a legacy as the leaders who took this critical step before it was too late. That is the opportunity in front of you.
How can we not be inspired by the incredible Sir David Attenborough? May I now ask you to turn your attention to three very important leaders, including the host of this very conference. I would like to welcome to the stage President Ivan Duque of Colombia, President Joko Widodo of Indonesia, and of course, our honorable host, Prime Minister Boris Johnson of the United Kingdom, for our first session on country ambition. Gentlemen, here, I will be here, President of Indonesia. Prime Minister, I will allow you to go to the stage first. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandrine, and good morning, everybody, my fellow leaders. And thank you to Sir David Attenborough for that amazing call to action. David Attenborough, a giant redwood of environmental campaigners. Welcome to the first ever COP World Leaders Session on forests and land use, an event that I hope will become a fixture of COP, because climate change and biodiversity are two sides of the same coin. We can't deal with the devastating loss of habitats and species without tackling climate change, and we can't deal with climate change without protecting our natural environment and respecting the rights of indigenous people who are its stewards. So it's central to the ambition of the UK's COP presidency that we act now, and we end the role of humanity as nature's conqueror and instead become nature's custodian. We have to stop the devastating loss of our forests, these great teeming ecosystems, trillion-pillared cathedrals of nature, 3 trillion-pillared cathedrals of nature that are the lungs of our planet. And the destruction, together with agriculture and other change of land use, that accounts for almost a quarter of all global emissions. So, if we want to keep the Paris goal of 1.5 degrees in sight and support communities in the front line of climate change, we must protect and restore the world's forests, and I believe we can do it. And many in this room have already made bold commitments, including President Widodo, who's introduced a moratorium on forest and peatland exploitation in Indonesia. And President Duque, thank you. President Duque, who has taken fantastic strides in safeguarding the Colombian Amazon, as well as leaders of the countries of the Congo Basin who are working to protect their precious forest. And with today's Glasgow Leaders Declaration, not 105, but I'm told that today 110. Is that right, Sandrine? 110 leaders have come together representing over 85% of the world's forest estate. They've made a landmark commitment to work together to halt and reverse deforestation and land degradation by 2030. Not just halt, but reverse. And that means more leaders than ever before have now signed up to protect our forests, from countries in the north and the south with temperate forests, tropical forests, and including nations like China, Russia, Brazil, some of the largest forest estates in the world. And what is most significant about this declaration is not just the range of countries coming together, but also that we're working in partnership with the private sector, with philanthropists, with indigenous people and local communities to address the economic drivers of deforestation. And there are interesting parallels here with our wider efforts on reducing emissions. For years we made pledges about reducing the use of coal, but what really matters is the rapid development of clean technologies with private sector investment. And this transformation has become an unparalleled economic opportunity for growth and for job creation. And so we're taking similar steps today to make forest conservation not just right for our planet, but right for our economies too. We know that 80% of tropical deforestation is driven by the global trade in agricultural commodities. So the UK and Indonesia have brought together countries that produce and consume these goods to agree a roadmap for sustainable trade so that we can grow our economies whilst reducing the pressure on our forests. And I'm delighted that this has now been signed by 28 countries, accounting for around 3/4 of global trade in these commodities. And as a result, cocoa farmers in West Africa should receive a better, fairer price for their products in return for protecting their forests. International trade standards should reward producers who shift their production to more sustainable methods, and assisted by new technology, supply chains can and will become ever more transparent. So as consumers, we will all be able to enjoy guilt-free chocolate. I mean, I suppose that's carbon guilt-free, not calorie guilt-free chocolate, safe in the knowledge that we have not just helped to prevent deforestation, but unlocking the opportunities of a sustainable food and land use system worth £4.5 trillion worth of trade by the end of this decade. We also want to mobilize global finance on an unprecedented scale. In the last decade, roughly 40 times more finance flowed into unsustainable land use practices than into forests, protection and conservation, while agriculture, forests and other land use receives just 2% of available finance. So, as we sign this declaration today, let's also galvanize a radical shift in public and private finance. Let's channel funds towards securing the rights of indigenous peoples and local communities and shift trillions towards supporting sustainable jobs, so that protecting our forests is not only the right course of action to tackle climate change, but the right course for a more prosperous future for us all. And like the advance of Birnam Wood at the end of Shakespeare's great Scottish tragedy, let's work together, not just to protect the forests, but also to ensure that the forests return. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Prime Minister, for setting the scene for this very ambitious set of commitments that we will have today. And now, can I please turn to President Duque, if you would like to use the lectern?
Good morning, Mr. Prime Minister, President. It's a great honor for me to participate in this very important panel. We're gathered here in Glasgow in the COP26 to discuss the future of the world. And we embrace this discussion also considering that this COP will have a big impact on the biodiversity COP15 that will take place in 2022. Both are intertwined. And the future of biodiversity also depends on what we do here. So we're conscious that the most important thing that we can do in order to avoid a climate disaster is that we accelerate our route to achieve carbon neutrality. But I want to raise today in this panel that it's very important to be carbon neutral, but it's also very important to be nature positive. Carbon neutral and nature positive are two concepts that must be in the minds and hearts of every citizen. I come from a country where 52% of our land is tropical forest. 35% of our land is Amazonic land. And we have 52% of the world's high-altitude ecosystems, better known as páramos. So we come today not with a theoretical approach. We come here with clear commitments. And we decided to sign the Leaders' Pledge for Nature so that by 2030, we will have 30% of our land being declared a protected area. But I must say this today, we're not waiting until 2030. We are today committing ourselves to protect 30% of our territory as a protected area in 2022, because we must act now. We're working to achieve this, also with sound regulation. We approved an anti-deforestation bill that is increasing the punishments for environmental crimes in our country. We've also made the protection of biodiversity one of the most important objectives of our national security strategy. And we launched the Artemis campaign so that all the forces and society all work together to protect biodiversity and to prevent further deforestation. But the most important thing we have also done is that we joined the 1 Trillion Trees Initiative that was launched 2 years ago in Davos. And we committed to plant 180 million trees by August 2022. And ladies and gentlemen, we are going to fulfill that commitment, and we will finish this year with 120 million trees already planted in Colombia. And we also know that the most important challenge we have before us is how do we connect financing with the conservation of these ecosystems. So that's why it's not just to declare 30% of our territory being a protected area, but how we conserve those territories and how do we connect green financing with the protection of these environments. I think this is the most important thing that we have to reflect and be innovative and be collaborative So my invitation to all of you is that in order to protect the tropical forest and the forest around the world, we need to start paying for environmental services. And we need also to expand our tuition and our pedagogy with the public so that we embrace this ethics of the 21st century, but that every conservated land in the world can also be linked to green financing and being able to compensate this in the carbon market. So, Mr. Prime Minister and President, I'm delighted to be here in this panel, and I want to thank you, Prime Minister Johnson, because the UK has been very supportive of all the efforts in Colombia. Yesterday, we received $33 million that are payment by results in conserving the Amazon. And I want to also praise the work of Minister Goldsmith, because with the United Kingdom, we have been able to work along so that we create a new environment in our country so that the protection of the trees and biodiversity becomes the duty of every citizen. So thank you so much, and I hope that today, with this commitment that we have made clear, Colombia also demonstrates to the world that if a country that has only 0.6% of the world greenhouse gases emissions is making the commitment of protecting 30% of our land in 2022, why don't other countries do the same? Thank you so much.
So much. Thank you, President Duque, for your incredible remarks.
Thank you.
Very much appreciated. May I please show gratitude for what you have done on the Leaders' Pledge, your pledge on the 120 billion trees, and also bringing in the importance of capital and trade. And that is why I would like to now turn to President Joko Widodo of Indonesia. Indonesia has been a wonderful leader on the forest agenda over recent years, and you are also the co-chair, dear President, of the Forest, Agriculture, Commodities and Trade Dialogue. So please, I hope you will also indicate to us how this is going forward. Welcome.
Yang Mulia Boris Johnson, Yang Mulia Ivan Marquez, Bapak Ibu yang saya hormati. Pada KTT kemarin, saya menyampaikan bahwa sektor kehutanan dan lahan di Indonesia akan mencapai net carbon sink pada tahun 2030. Ini adalah komitmen Indonesia untuk menjadi bagian dari solusi. Dan capaian nyata Indonesia di sektor kehutanan tidak terbantahkan. Pada tahun 2020, tingkat kebakaran hutan di Indonesia diminimalisir hingga 82%. Pada tahun 2019, penurunan emisi dari hutan dan tata guna lahan juga ditekan hingga 40,9% jika dibandingkan tahun 2015. Deforestasi hutan di Indonesia juga mencapai tingkat terendah dalam 20 tahun terakhir. Ini dilakukan saat dunia tahun lalu kehilangan 12% lebih banyak hutan primer dibanding tahun sebelumnya. Dan ketika banyak negara justru mengalami kebakaran hutan dan lahan terbesar sepanjang sejarah. Keberhasilan ini dicapai karena Indonesia menempatkan aksi iklim dalam konteks pembangunan yang berkelanjutan. Dan kebijakan pengelolaan hutan berkelanjutan harus memadukan pertimbangan lingkungan dengan ekonomi dan sosial. Kemitraan dengan masyarakat juga diutamakan. Program perhutanan sosial dibuat agar konservasi hutan disertai terciptanya penghidupan bagi masyarakat sekitar. Hal ini penting karena 34% dari seluruh desa di Indonesia berada di perbatasan atau di dalam hutan kawasan. Jutaan masyarakat Indonesia menggantungkan hidupnya dari sektor kehutanan. Menafikan hal ini bukan saja tidak realistis, namun juga tidak akan sustainable. Bapak Ibu sekalian, perkenankan saya berbagi perspektif menjadikan hutan bagian dari aksi iklim global. Pertama, perhatian kita harus mencakup seluruh jenis ekosistem hutan, tidak hanya hutan tropis, tapi juga hutan iklim sedang dan boreal. Kebakaran hutan misalnya berdampak pada emisi gas rumah kaca dan keanekaragaman hayati apapun jenis ekosistemnya. Terkait pengelolaan hutan, Indonesia juga telah mengubah paradigma dari manajemen produk hutan menjadi manajemen landscape hutan, sehingga pengelolaan area hutan menjadi lebih menyeluruh. Selain itu, Indonesia juga melakukan restorasi ekosistem mangrove, hutan mangrove yang berperan dalam menyerap dan menyimpan karbon. Indonesia memiliki lebih dari 20% total area mangrove dunia, 3,3 juta hektar hutan mangrove di Indonesia, terbesar di dunia. Kedua, mekanisme insentif harus diberikan bagi pengelolaan hutan secara berkelanjutan. Sertifikasi dan standar produksi harus disertai market incentives, sehingga berfungsi mendorong pengelolaan hutan yang berkelanjutan bukan menjadi hambatan perdagangan. Sertifikasi, metodologi, dan standar harus didasarkan pada parameter yang diakui secara multilateral, tidak dipaksakan secara unilateral dan berubah-ubah. Sertifikasi harus berkeadilan sehingga berdampak pada kesejahteraan utamanya para petani kecil. Sertifikasi juga harus mempertimbangkan semua aspek SDGs sehingga pengelolaan hutan sejalan dengan pengentasan kemiskinan dan pemberdayaan masyarakat. Ketiga, mobilisasi dukungan pendanaan dan teknologi bagi negara berkembang. Komitmen harus dilakukan melalui aksi nyata, implementasi nyata, bukan retorika. Memberikan bantuan bukan berarti dapat mendikte, apalagi melanggar hak kedaulatan suatu negara atas wilayahnya. Dukungan harus country-driven, didasarkan pada kebutuhan real negara berkembang pemilik hutan. Bagi Indonesia, dengan atau tanpa dukungan, kami akan terus melangkah maju. Kami kembangkan sumber-sumber pendanaan inovatif, di antaranya pendirian Badan Pengelola Dana Lingkungan Hidup, penerbitan Green Bond, dan suku hijau atau green suku, serta mengembangkan mekanisme nilai ekonomi karbon sebagai insentif bagi pihak swasta dalam mencapai penurunan emisi. Para pemimpin, 90% penduduk dunia yang hidup dalam kemiskinan ekstrim bergantung pada hutan. Penyalahgunaan isu climate change sebagai hambatan perdagangan adalah kesalahan besar. Hal ini akan menggerus trust terhadap kerjasama internasional mengatasi climate change dan malah menghalangi pembangunan berkelanjutan yang justru sangat dibutuhkan. Pengelolaan hutan dalam kerangka pembangunan berkelanjutan menjadi satu-satunya pilihan. Kami siap berbagi pengalaman dan pengetahuan untuk itu. Mari kita kelola hutan yang pro-environment, pro-development, dan people-centered. Ini adalah tujuan utama dari Forest, Agriculture and Commodity Trade Dialogue yang diketuai bersama Indonesia dan Inggris. Sehingga hutan akan menjadi solusi berkelanjutan bagi aksi iklim global. Terima kasih.
Thank you very much, President Jokowi, and in particular also for now launching another key commitment, which is the Forest, Agriculture and Commodity Trade Dialogue Roadmap. 28 countries that have endorsed this roadmap, phenomenal. A new partnership which is revolutionary and covers 75% of the global market. But you also made another reflection which was fundamental, and that was the role of communities and indigenous peoples. Because what we will be seeing today is the variety of commitments that are systemic on trade, on capital flows, and for the first time ever, on the deep protection and allocation of help to indigenous peoples that are the stewards of the forests. So that completes this opening session. I would like to very much thank you, and also thank you, President Duque, and of course, yourself, Prime Minister Johnson, as a host. And we can now leave the session and open up for the rest of today's incredible announcements. Thank you very much. Well done, all of you. Well done. Thank you.